Welcome once again to Late Night Vibes with Ine and Cece. My co-host is not here. She might join us anytime soon, but welcome once again. Just in case you're joining us for the first time, my name is Ine. I want to welcome everyone to our channel where we tackle real world issues that people face every day. On our channel, we offer honest perspectives and thoughtful solutions. We dive into tough but necessary conversations that matter. Today's topic is an important one. It's a painful reality. It gets to show how sudden financial success can strain marriages. It often results to one party leaving the other with little to no support or recognition, and in some cases, even losing access to their children. So the issue of building a life together, then being abandoned with nothing after years of commitment is a painful reality for many. And in many Western countries, divorce laws are structured to ensure a fair division of assets, requiring both parties to share the wealth accumulated during the marriage. However, in some African countries, the gaps in legal protection and prevailing cultural norms can allow one spouse, often the man, to walk away with the majority of the wealth, leaving the other party with little to no support or recognition for their contribution in the marriage. While this pattern is not universal, it is not limited to one gender or one region. It remains a pressing issue in many communities. So this pattern of abandonment is all too common in some societies and deserves the attention it needs. And here is a disclaimer. This video is not directed at any individual or case in particular. It is intended purely for educational and awareness purposes to highlight and discuss real issues affecting real people in today's world. And so I'll go on to introduce our guest. Joining us today to discuss this topic is Anne. We've got three amazing guests. So our first guest that will be joining us to discuss today's topic is Anne Oswald. Anne is a dear friend of mine and someone I call a sister from another mother. Anne Oswald is someone she does important work in the mental health crisis space in London. Anne, we want to welcome you to Late Night Vibes.
Thank you, Ine.
You're welcome. And our second guest, as you all will be thrilled to welcome Reverend Ambassador Tammy Clarissa Abusi. I've known Reverend Tammy for a long time, a very long time. She's a familiar face to many. Reverend Tammy Clarissa Abusi is a devoted minister, mother of two, and an advocate for spiritual and personal transformation. She has gained national recognition as the producer of the 1990s hit show Checkmate. That was one of my favorite soap operas. Well done for that show. She earned the Nigeria Media Merit Award in 1991 and recently starred in Philomena, An Interview with a Prostitute. Reverend Tammy is a versatile professional, a director, MLM, consultant, entrepreneur, and life coach. She leads Afrocoding. Am I getting it right? Afrocoding. Creator of the Bonnie Has Talent show, well done for that as well, and founded Miss Blossom Beauty, which is a mentoring and talent development platform for survivors of adversity. Her work blends creativity, empowerment, and humanitarian service. making her a catalyst for positive change in our community and beyond. Reverend Tammy, Reverend Tammy, like I said, is more than a friend. She is like a sister, and I'm honored to have you join this conversation. Reverend, good to have you on this show.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here to share and to be a part of what's happening out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. And our third guest is my wonderful friend as well, Samson. Samson, pardon me if I pronounce your surname wrongly, but I'm going to try my best to pronounce it correctly. Igige. Igege, yeah?
It's Igege.
Igege.
Yes, that's better.
Igege. Thank you so much, Samson, for that correction. So, our third guest, Samson, is a practicing lawyer based in Nigeria. With his legal expertise, he brings valuable insight into how Nigeria laws are applied. Samson, we're glad to have you on our show to help us unpack the legal side and perhaps the customary side of this important topic.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to welcome my co-host Cici to the show. Cici, welcome on.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Okay. All right. Right. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic and unpack this important issue. I'd like to ask our first guest, Samson. Samson, you're a lawyer in Nigeria, and I've got a few questions for you in relation to where partners build together, then one party abandons the other couple or the other party with nothing after years together. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to throw a bit of light, on that topic, or should I just go straight and ask you my question?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask the question. I guess I'll address the issue while answering the questions.
Okay, that's a good one. So, my number one question to you, Samson, would be: how are financial assets typically divided when a long-term relationship breaks down, especially when one party has gained wealth over time?
Okay, thank you very much. So, under the Nigerian legal system, the protection afforded to married couple depends on the type of marriage that they've contracted. So we have marriage under the Acts, that is statutory marriage, and then we have marriage under customary law and Islamic law. So protections differ. Now, typically, for a marriage that is contracted under the Act, that is statutory marriage, if you have such a situation, the Matrimonial Causes Act, which is the law that governs disputes and issues of maintenance, would usually kick in to provide protection and also modalities for dividing assets. So we are dealing with sharing of assets. So specifically, Section 72 of the Matrimonial Causes Act empowers the courts, where maybe there's a divorce proceedings or proceedings for separation, for the court to determine how assets in the marriage are to be divided. Now, the problem with that provision of the law is that in deciding how the asset is divided, no criteria per se is provided. The language of the law is that, the court will divide if it considers it just and equitable. So it uses the term just and equitable. Now, just and equitable, there have been interpretations by courts that it all depends on the discretion of the judge, the interpretation that the judge, gives to the situation or the evidence presented before the judge, the circumstances surrounding the marriage, and also the capacity of the couple. So here we are dealing with one of the couple who has acquired tremendous wealth, right? So in such situation, of course, the court will consider, the contributions that the other spouse has made in the course of the marriage, the length of the marriage, that is the duration of the marriage, how long it has lasted, and also the position of both parties. Now, I'll quickly, I know we don't have a lot of time, let me quickly give you a practical scenario. There's a case, Ibeauchi and Ibeauchi, where the man had been married with two kids and had acquired a property in Kano. Now he got married subsequently to the respondents, that's his wife. She gave birth to his son. And so the marriage broke down subsequently. They were living in that house with the three kids of the previous marriage. Now, when the marriage broke down, of course, the woman went to court and she invoked the provision of Section 72. And the trial court, in the court's wisdom, determined that it was just and equitable to give her that story building. And the man appealed to the Court of Appeal. And what the Court of Appeal considered was, first, the fact that the woman did not lead evidence to show that the man had other properties. So that's, in the opinion of the court, was not just and equitable. Secondly, the fact that there was evidence that the man was living in the house with the three children of the previous marriage. And thirdly, that the house was acquired before the marriage, and the marriage didn't last for so long. So, in the opinion of the Court of Appeal, the circumstances it was not equitable in the circumstance to deprive the man of the house, and give it to the woman. So, like I said, it all depends on facts, on circumstances, and the capacity of both parties. But the law does provide there's a provision for the woman to invoke in such situation, or the man, depending on who had acquired the wealth. Yes. So I don't know if that answers it.
That's a powerful insight, Samson. Thank you so much. So that will lead me into the next question as well. What are the biggest mistakes couple make when trusting their spouses financially?
Well, this is not entirely or technically a legal question, right? But of course, it's an important question because if you go to court, when the marriage breaks down, before the court, those mistakes are the things that will determine the success or otherwise of your claim in court, right? So, in my view, and from cases, from experience, I think one of the major mistakes that couples make is that if you're purchasing the property jointly, for instance, and during the course of the marriage or relationship, it is always important to reflect the names of the couple separately. So if you use Mr. and Mrs., and then the next name is the name of the man, the courts have held that does not, give the woman the right to claim joint ownership. So for joint ownership, you have to write Mr. XYZ and Mrs. ABC. Now that clearly shows that, okay, this property is joint. And when the marriage breaks down, in that situation, there is no discretion for the court because by evidence, it's a jointly owned property. Now, that's just one situation. Now you ask me, how about situations where it is not jointly acquired? So a woman or a man should ensure that the couple rather should ensure that they make financial decisions together. So you don't ignore financial decisions or leave it to one of the spouse. There shouldn't also be overdependence of one partner on the other. There should be open communication, particularly around finances. So, in fact, couples can decide to enter into prenuptial agreements. That is one thing that people miss. So it's possible for you to come in to be married with some properties, you know, and the man comes in with some properties, but maybe you do not have evidence or something to prove that that property belongs to you over time, or you lose it. Now, without the prenuptial agreement, it devolves into the matrimonial asset. And so when there's a problem, depending on the evidence presented before the court, there's a likelihood to lose that property. So have prenuptial agreements, buy properties. If you are buying joint properties, make sure that it's clearly stated that this property belongs to, both parties, their names stated. And also, I mean, we're not talking about debts, but there is also the mistake of people not, especially in this part of the world, not writing their wills. I think couples should encourage themselves to also have wills where properties are clearly, I mean, the estates is clearly divided amongst beneficiaries in the event of the death of one of the parties. So, in summary, transparency, open communication, and also ensuring that whatever you are doing, there is some form of evidence or proof that you can rely upon in the event that one of the parties decides to go, to abandon and leave the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Samson. We haven't touched on the customary side. I know you mentioned the customary side and then the Islamic law. At some point, I would please like you to look at the customary side, because in some countries that is very important. We have a customary marriage, like you rightly said, and we need to know what they can do just in case they're not married in court or whatever. So, going to the third question, how does, I think you've touched on that, but we can still, let me just go, you can just talk about it briefly, even if it's 1 minute. Yeah. So how does the legal system protect both couples in cases of financial abandonment? For example, in Nigeria, and what legal steps can the abandoned person take? You've touched on it, but just some sort of, expanding slightly, even if it's for 1 minute, please.
Yeah, it's okay. So, I talked about Section 72 that deals with the division of properties. Now, there's a specific provision under the Matrimonial Causes Act, Section 70, that makes provision for maintenance of parties to marriage, so maintenance of husband or the wife, and also of the children of the marriage. And this is regardless of whether or not there's a proceeding for dissolution. So the couple can invoke this provision and institute an action in court for maintenance, even if there is no proceedings for dissolution. These are ancillary, what's called an ancillary relief. So I mean, the simple remedy to answer your question directly is for the spouse to institute an action in court and seek for maintenance. And the court, in deciding that, again, would also consider the capacity, the earning power of the spouse against whom maintenance is being paid. And maintenance does not have to be from the man, but of course, we're in Africa, so usually it's rare for a man to go to court and seek for maintenance. So the cases we've seen are usually cases involving, where women go to court to seek for maintenance, and the court will grant it. Now, it can be for the education of the children as well. So it's not just for the spouse. Like I said, it involves the children. So their maintenance, welfare, housing, a couple can go to court and seek for that. The only limitation is that where the children above 21 years and above, then the court would not be able to grant those reliefs, except if they are just, if there are circumstances that, exceptional circumstances that justify, the granting of such relief.
Good. Thank you. Thanks. Quite insightful. Very, eye-opening. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then lastly, this is also quite important. In long-term marriages, what are the rights of someone who hasn't worked but supported the home?
Okay. So in deciding maintenance, so all the reliefs, right, available to a couple in their marriage applies regardless of your status, whether you're working or not, right? So let me take them based on the reliefs that you might seek. So for division of properties, for instance, now for a woman, pardon me, let me use that because, we are speaking within the context of Nigeria. So I want to speak to what is, the reality of our society here. So for a woman who, for instance, does not work and is expected to stay at home, she has stayed at home, she bears children, takes care of that home, and so does not work. What then is a remedy? Now, when it comes to division of properties, the court is expected to take into consideration what is called a non-financial contribution. So the right to any relief under the Act is not dependent only on financial contribution. So usually non-financial contributions are taken into consideration. Childbearing, maintenance of the matrimonial home. Now, even the case I mentioned earlier, the Ibeauchi's case, the basis on which the trial court gave her the properties because she bore a son, and the court considered that she had contributed to the matrimonial home. There are other cases where there's a case of Ogoyone and Ogoyone where the court also found that, substantial non-financial contribution, such as childbearing and domestic services, will entitle a couple, in this case the woman, to a fair share of the matrimonial property acquired during the marriage. Yes, so the fact that a woman is not working or the man is not working does not deprive them of seeking for remedies for maintenance or sharing in the matrimonial properties in the event that the marriage breaks down. And let me just add quickly that this would also apply in customary law marriages because it's not a legal principle. It's an equitable principle. And equity, because it's not legal, equity applies even in cases in customary law marriages. So where in a customary law marriage, a woman has been home and then the marriage is being dissolved. Naturally, if she goes to court, the court will consider, her contributions to the home, childbearing and all that. Although in customary law, for customary marriages, the traditions and customs of the different societies would also kick in. So it all would depend on the circumstance and where that marriage, the customary law or culture under which the marriage was contracted.
Wow, thank you. I was going to talk about the customary law, but you've already answered that, somehow. So thank you. Those are powerful, very important points that you've shared. Thank you so much, Samson.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks. So now moving on next will be to our second guest, Reverend Tammy Abusi. Let's hear your perspective on, this topic of abandonment after acquiring wealth, mostly during long-term marriages. So my question to you would be, what advice would you offer to couples about maintaining a strong ethical commitment to each other when financial success comes into play? strong ethical commitment to each other when financial success comes into play?
Well, thank you. It's a very tricky one there. When you talk about commitment, there is no strong commitment other than commitment. You see, and because we shy away a lot from a lot of things in this part of the world, we don't sit down to outline issues to say this is this and this is that. Once you meet somebody and you're in love with the person, oh, you trust everything the person is saying, hook, line, and sinker. You believe, and then you don't see that there could be another side of this person sooner or later. You see, so we don't dot the I's and cross the T's. But I would want to advise that we must begin to go beyond all of that. Yes, I'm in love with you. Yes, we want to get married. Yes, we're not planning to have a divorce. Yes, we're not planning to scatter this marriage, but we must outline issues. I want to know to what extent are you committed to this marriage? Well, and I took something from what the lawyer just said. He talked about owning a property, Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. could be anybody. You see, I just learned something there. So if you are putting down a property, it should be Mr. James Haddison and Mrs. Virginia Haddison. Because if it's just Mr. and Mrs. Haddison, Mr. Haddison could go out there and get another Mrs. Haddison, or he could claim that this was a property he had with XYZ Mrs. that they had in whatever, anything could happen. So I learned that one. So when you talk about strong ethical commitment, it's something that we have to begin to imbibe and not shy away from, honestly. We have to put pen to paper. I would want to advise that couples getting married should endeavor to put their cards on the table. And another challenge is that most times people are not prepared. People don't want to say, this is what I am, this is what I have. They keep some, they tell some. So in the marriage, as the marriage proceeds, people begin to unravel. But I would want to advocate that we should go beyond all of that and begin to put our cards on the table a bit more. Yeah.
Well said. Thank you. And so the next question is, what happens when one couple becomes financially dominant? Because it's important we stress that finance, because this is where we are now. We've heard of cases where people have stayed from maybe they met at the age of 15 or 20 whilst in school or thereabout, and then 25, 35 years down the line, they built together, they became successful, and then before you know, one party abandons because they've got the financial dominance over the other party. So we would not stress this financial side of it enough. So this is where we are going. So when we say, so the next question is, what happens when one couple becomes financially dominant and decides to remove the other from the home, cutting them off both financially and access to even their children?
Well, first of all, I would start by saying that there will never be a time when one partner will be financially dominant, because most times, you see, these things happen from inception. You actually see the signs. Those signs, the traits are there. You may not have finance, but you will see dominance. You will perceive dominance. You will perceive that this person is authoritative, this person is assertive, this person must have his way, it has to be the way he says this. So it doesn't really have to be about finance. Okay. So you see, if you meet somebody like that, or you have somebody like that, you already have this red flag. You already have the signals that even when money is involved, this person will do exactly the same thing. So when you see the red flag, when the money is not there, it's time to define. It's time to, don't wait until the money comes, you know. And then, of course, these things it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just fall on someone. you definitely see it. As a woman, I'm sure you know what I'm saying. You would perceive it when you're dating, when you are with the person. You know how he speaks to you. You know how he is about even the small 10 naira or 2,000 naira, that you're with. You know it. So it can be avoided. But when you fall into the trap and then you find that this has happened, then you have to begin to apply legal terms, like the lawyer said. You have to seek for legal advice. You don't just give up because you have been a party. Again, I learned from him that it is not about bringing finance to a marriage. It's about the contributions that you have made to the marriage. So if I've been with you for 10 years of my life and I've stopped every other thing and I've been with you, nurturing you, ensuring that you're okay, giving you emotional support, maybe I have a child or two with you, and then you think you can kick me out. No, I have contributed to the relationship. So I definitely have some part of it as my own. So I seek legal advice and I get what belongs to me.
Wow. Wow. That's really something to think about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And then the next question. I know you're a clergy woman, so I would.
By God's grace, yeah.
Yes. How can religious communities support individuals facing marital separation or abandonment due to wealth?
Religious communities.
Yes. It could be as Christians, you could just, you want to talk about the church in the aspect of church, but religious communities
a religious community, is the umbrella word. How can they support? Sad to say that the religious community hasn't done much. Rather, they have even messed things up more. Because I can't recall that there is any particular arrangement, organization, or a body set aside to handle issues like that. All I know that happens in religious communities is what they call counseling. People go for counseling. And this counseling, most times, is an individual that does it. Most times, maybe one or two persons. And even in the midst of doing the counseling, you get trapped in the counseling because there's a shoulder. You don't know where to draw the boundary. So I don't think religious communities have done enough. I think religious communities need to set up proper groups, proper organizations that should tackle this. And we should learn to remove ourselves because we get, most times when couples go for this issue, the person who tends to have the upper hand in terms of finance always has the listening ear. They want to listen to the person some more. So they tell the woman or the man, you have to be humble. If it is the woman that has the upper hand, they tell the man that, look, you must love your wife. You must love your wife. They are not seeing what the woman is doing to that man. And if it is the reverse, they also tell the woman, look, you have to respect your husband. You have to honor your husband. You have to be humble. They are not understanding. And that's why you see all the deaths that we are having today. Because when it resorts to that point, of course, violence begins to happen. Yeah.
Quite powerful and very well said. Thank you. And to our viewers watching, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share our videos. Thank you. And to the final, I'll ask you the final question, Reverend. Thank you so much for that great insight. How can wealth create vulnerability for both partners or for both parties, leading to situations where one partner feels entitled to make unilateral decisions that negatively affect the other? You spoke around it, but now I'm going to throw it because it led nicely into this question when you answered the other question. So, how can wealth create vulnerability for both partners or for both parties, leading to situations where one partner feels entitled to make unilateral decisions that negatively affect the other couple? I need to get used to saying couple? I mean,
Well, again, it has a lot to do with dominance and assertiveness. Okay, it has a lot to do with it because you come into a relationship, you believe that you have the upper hand because you have more money, so you want to call the shot. Again, the female or the male should see the red flag. There are females that are very, very, very dominant. They have this, you know them. It has to be their way. And as a man, you are seeing the red flag, but you are still pushing ahead, thinking that you can break through, thinking that they say, oh, no, she's like that, but she's a very nice person. We begin to give excuses. The reverse is the case. I mean, I have a case of my niece at the time was going to get married, and every decision was coming from her fiance's people. The colors to use, where to shop, a wedding gown, and all of that. And 2 weeks to the wedding, she couldn't take it anymore. That marriage, she would have walked into it with the overbearing attitude, not just from the man. Now, the man has that entitlement mentality because he believes that he's the one making the provision. So you should be able to. He tells you when he cannot give you what you need and tells you the reason why he can't give it to you. And you can't say nothing. So these are things we must watch out for. It's not, marriage is not about money. You see, the truth is that before any relationship or any marriage will get to that point of friction, we must have seen the signals, but we did not attend to it. So we have to be a bit more attentive and not rush.
Thank you so much, Reverend. And to our viewers, I think you're welcome. I think a lot of people would relate to what both Reverend and Samson, our legal expert, have all said. And please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share our video. So I'll move on. On that note, I'll move on to Anne. Anne, ready?
I'm here. Time conscious, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what psychological effects do individuals face when they experience abandonment after a financial gain in the marriage?
And when you're addressing a separation, it's quite an in-depth course on both parties. Could be the man, could be the woman, but there are quite a few psychological impacts. I'm talking in the perspective of being a clinical lead, working in crisis. I've come across so many women who have faced psychological trauma, betrayal, deep emotional pain, as a loss of trust, loss of identity. Women, as a result of long-term separation, the effect of abandonment, the loss of identity, depression, anxiety is something like it's my daily bread due to separation. Women become so anxious, depressed, unable to cope. This is lingering sadness and stress psychologically that affect women due to relationship breakdown. Also, in our society, you're dealing with the stigma, you're dealing with shame, humiliation, particularly, I would say, from Black ethno-minority background, failure in terms of a relationship, and also self-blame. So these are some of the things that women face when a long-term relationship breaks down and there's a financial gain in the marriage. So they lose their identity, they give up their career, and shame, humiliation is all part of it. Some women even suffer post-traumatic, stress and depression as a result of that. Yeah, so I'm conscious of time because I have an event, so I could go on and on. But yes, these are the psychological trauma that are faced, as I said, betrayal, people's loss of identity, self-worth, depression and anxiety. So it's a serious matter when it comes to long-term relationship or with women or with a man in some cases.
Thank you, and yes, thank you. We'll try and finish because we would have to also finish in on time as well. But yes, I'm very
Mhm.
conscious that you go. But thank you so much for your valuable insight. So, can you unpack what steps individuals can take to emotionally and mentally recover after power dynamics in relationships lead to one party taking control of the situation, particularly after
Right.
financial success?
And so I work in the health sector, and actually, part of the things that I provide for women in that situation is therapy. They be referred to psychological interventions. People should be more trauma informed. In terms of that, counseling, especially in trauma informed, it was counseling, um, therapy. You refer women for psychological intervention and psychotherapy, systemic therapy, counseling. We have organizations that deal with like Relate. We will also give training and support for women who have been through some psychological trauma as a result of relationship or long-term relationship breakdown. And we also, refer women, as I work in a crisis as a clinical lead, we would refer women for mindfulness, to deal with those sort of impact, and also giving them training of assertiveness. I say one to gain their self-worth. So you have all this sort of thing to restore emotional regulations for these women to be able to cope, because you're losing trust. Some because of the trauma, some women are not able to move on in life. It even results in suicide in some areas for some people, because of not able to cope, which is part of the psychological impact that women faces. Some men also do face, but statistically, you have more impact on women than men. Yes.
Wow. Okay. I know many of our viewers would relate to what all of our guests have said. And finally, to you, and the last question before, just get your takeaway message ready, Samson and Reverend as well, please. So, how does this situation affect any children or other close relatives, close family members?
The effect on children, close members of family, the impact is huge. There's an element of confusion. There's a conflict of loyalty when it comes to the children. Should they support their mother? Should they support their father? So there is an emotional trauma for the children, the loss of sudden stability. You have a mom and dad. Now you've got mom, or there's a custody battle. So there is a great psychological impact, which also affect the children academically, self-esteem. You begin to see some kind of behavioral issues in some cases. Hence, sometimes we have children being put in care. You see, so it is, and then sometimes due to this breakup and psychological effect, the children cannot cope in the environment. So it is quite the impact is huge, and it opens a whole can of worms where you start to look at safeguarding as well. So this topic is quite broad. You'll be looking at safeguarding the children, might be safeguarding for the mother due to her lack of not able to cope. It results in some cases women becoming self-harming. So in my capacity as a mental health practitioner, I have been able to counsel women, find support for them to be able to cope with such, traumatic event. For the children, for the extended family, there is anger, there is loneliness, bitterness, and the extended family, parents might become too overprotective of their children. Whoever has got the upper hand and where they might want to be overprotective, it brings a family discourse. So it's quite, there is issue of loyalty with friends. Friends might take sides, and then some cases making the other person feel isolated, lonely. and not being believed of the trauma that they face as a result of relationship breakdown. But the most impact is deeply on the children, and then it causes psychological trauma. It then plays out in their academic performance, the school, result of their anger, not able to regulate their anger and emotion. They might display those aggressive behavior at schools, could result in them performing, they might be expelled. So it is a huge impact on children and close relative. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that insights, and really appreciate it. And to our viewers watching, do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comment section. Please subscribe to our channel, like and share this video. Thank you so much to our returning viewers and anyone who's seen our video for the first time. We appreciate all of you, and to our guests, we also thank you. And my this is, as you all know, this is just it isn't just about heartbreak. It's about justice, self-worth, and foresight. Whether you're married or not, building a future with someone requires more than love. It requires protection, legal, emotional, and spiritual. So if you've ever felt used, left behind, or scared that this could happen to you, you're not alone. And it's time that we start talking, and that's why we're here talking. Now, to our viewers again, this question is to you. Why do some couples walk away after success, leaving the person who helped them when there was nothing? To our viewers, why do some couples walk away after success, leaving the person who helped them with nothing, or who was there with them when they had nothing? And again, do not forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. I'll move on to my guest. So we're getting to the end of the show. So you all will keep your recommendations, and then we'll get there. So let me move on to my co-host, Sisi. Sisi, from everything we've discussed, what would be your recommendation to anyone who's already married or thinking about getting married, especially to women, in terms of protecting themselves emotionally, legally, and financially?
Well, from all what I take, I would say the biggest one is communication. I think you have an open communication with your partner, husband or wife, and basically tell them what you want, what your fears, your goals, how you're feeling. And it's not just the normal money, the normal things you talk about in marriages. So just, I think, go deeper and have that open communication so everyone knows where they are. And also, like religion, having children, long-term goals. So I do think that communication is a big one. And also how to handle conflicts. Like when there's a situation, how do you handle it? Some people don't like to, they just go off, be angry, and not hearing the husband and the wife's view. So I do think everything, because marriage, people just think you get married and it solves the problem. Marriage is a big thing, very big. So I also need that to have counseling too, as you was said before. Counseling is very big before you go into marriage, because some people don't know how to handle it. So counseling actually help them to have that tools. So if a situation come in the marriage, they're already prepared. I think a lot of people are not prepared in marriages, and also that how life shows different curves to you and how to handle it too. So I say counseling is very big, and also knowing yourself and how to get into the marriage. When you know yourself, if you want to be in a marriage too, ask yourself, because especially women, there's pressure on women to get married, marriage. And when you see your friends getting married, you'll be thinking, oh, well, I'm not getting married. Then a guy will come and say, oh, I want to marry you. And you say yes, because you're not married. So that's a lot of pressure. Then when you marry, then it's like, oh, marriage goes wrong because of you just want to be married. And also, I also think in financial, women should be independent. Don't just give up when you go into marriage and just give up your life for the marriage. What you like, what you want to do, continue pursuing it. Have your friends, everything that you want to do doesn't mean because you're married, your life stops. No, it keeps on going on. You grow, and also you grow with your husband and wife and the relationship too. So that's my intake.
Thank you so much, Sisi. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Those points you brought. So my recommendation to anyone getting married, especially women, is to go in with love, but not without wisdom. First, understand the legal framework of that country or culture you're marrying into. Know your rights and don't be afraid to have a conversation. Like Cece said, communicate. Don't be afraid to have conversation about property. Our legal expert touched on that. Assets and financial planning earlier on in your marriage or before your marriage, like Cece said. Consider, for me, I would suggest consider a prenuptial agreement or at least a documented mutual understanding. It's documented so that, as our legal expert said, you can have some form of evidence. It's not about mistrust. It's not about mistrust. Let's get that right. We're not being biased. It's not about mistrust. It's about clarity and protection. Also, make sure you're marrying someone who respects your contribution. Build your own identity. Cece talked about it. Build your own identity and income. And even within the marriage, build your own identity and income even within the marriage. Financial independence is a form of security. And finally, surround yourself with a support system. People who will stand with you if things get hard. Marriage is a beautiful journey, since you touched on that. But preparation is key to making it healthy and sustainable. So our guests, we're about to wrap up. To our guests on the show, what will be your closing takeaway to married couple or anyone going into relationship? What are the red flags? Reverend Tammy touched on that. What are the red flags that should never be ignored? So any one of you just call me in, and I'd like all your takeaway message to people that are married or people about to get into marriage.
I would suggest that there should be an equal partnership. And then just to support what Cecilia just said, there should be a very transparent and good communication into any relationship, equal partnership. So there should be no dominant, regardless of who has more financial power or not. Equality, regardless, it will be a key to successful relationship, marriage, or just partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. And who wants to go next?
Well, more for me, I honestly think that put your cards on the table, and there should be no gray areas. Talk more, verify documents. Don't be shy to ask questions. It doesn't make you greedy. You just want to know. So we have to go beyond just being spiritual about, oh, God said you're my husband, God said you're my wife, or we're compatible of ourselves. We have to begin to do a bit more so we can sustain. And don't lose who you are. A lot of women get into marriages and then the husband tells them you can't work because I want you to stay back and take care of the kids. And then, of course, the kids will grow up and they will leave. By then, you've lost a lot. You lose your self-worth, you lose your self-esteem, and you lose your personality. And you begin to regret. Those things, begin to create bitterness. And it's the bitterness that eventually builds up to the point where you think that, oh, this man has ruined my life. I just want to go out there and, reinvent myself. So still be who you are while you're in that marriage, and look for someone you're compatible with, somebody who respects your ideology, somebody who would not push you down when you speak. I think that's basically what it is.
Thank you. And something?
Okay, so I mean, I agree with all the recommendations. Just to add that it's important to not just understand your partner, but also to not ignore red flags because most times, you see the problems from the beginning. Now, when you ignore, it grows into a deeper problem that eventually leaves you stranded. So it's important to also have shared goals. So regardless of the role that you choose to perform in the marriage, I mean, some women are fine with just taking care of the home, but let that not be seen as just the role of the woman. It should be a decision. And so let it be that in this marriage, these are our goals, and the goals are shared. So if the man has to go out and bring the money or whatever he's doing, let it be that he's doing it for the family, not just for himself. So basically, ensure that you understand yourselves. And finally, do not wait until the marriage has broken down. Do not wait until you've been abandoned. Do not wait until there is an actual problem. Once you see the signs, seek legal advice, seek spiritual advice, seek the necessary advice that you need so these problems can be solved before they become unsolvable. Thank you.
Very well said. Seek good friend advice, seek good family advice as well. Let me add to what Samson has said, our legal expert. Very important. And on that note, you have all heard great from our guests, their wonderful perspectives on this serious topic. And I want to thank our amazing viewers once again. Thank you for supporting our channel. And to my wonderful guests, thank you so much for your valuable time and for coming
Thank
on.
you.
And as usual, kindly remember to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you so much to everyone.